The Middle East is going through the most tense days in its history. Perhaps a level of tension that even the United States did not expect. Iran has found itself completely cornered because there is no longer just one power that it is fighting against. Standing against it is the entire geography of the Middle East, which controls billions of dollars. Let's get into the details. For decades, Kuwait was a country that Iran would never touch. All the other Gulf states received missiles, either directly from Iran or from its proxies. Saudi Arabia absorbed Houthi attacks armed and directed by the Iranians. Dawood suffered 3,000 drone and missile attacks during this war alone. And Qatar, the supposed ally of Iran, was also attacked anyway. But as you can see, Kuwait was different. Kuwait remained neutral and throughout all this teaming, even before this war, it kept diplomatic channels open both with Iran and with the other Gulf monarchies. However, now it appears that Iran is breaking its own rules. Last night, Irgese commandos infiltrated a military island belonging to Kuwait in order to kill or capture American soldiers. This is not a joke. This was a massive escalation by the Iranians, and they are doing it during negotiations where they supposedly claim they want long-term peace. This was confirmed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Kuwait. Take a look at the report. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs expressed strong condemnation and rejection by the state of Kuwait regarding the infiltration of an armed group composed of members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps of the Islamic Republic of Iran on Bubiyan Island, with the aim of carrying out hostile acts against the state of Kuwait and confronting Kuwaiti armed forces personnel before being captured. This incident resulted in injuries to one member of the Kuwaiti armed forces. As you can see, the reason why this is such a huge problem is the island that Iran decided to attack. This island, Bubiyan Island, is located about 30 kilometers southwest of the Iraqi border, and Iran knows that American forces are currently using this island and the base located there. The reason for this, as you can see, is that Iran had actually attacked this island once before. On April 4, when United States forces carried out multiple airstrikes just north of this location against Iranian militants attempting to cross into Iraq, Iran responded by attacking this island. Basically, it was retaliation for the United States attacks because Iran knows there are American forces operating on this island. Then today, in the middle of a ceasefire and negotiations, the Irgese attempted to infiltrate the base where American forces are most likely stationed. It is not difficult to guess what their objective was: to kill or capture American soldiers in order to gain more leverage in the negotiations. Now, the important thing here is that Kuwait has said this was an attack on its sovereignty and that they reserve the right to respond. Here is that statement. Kuwait said that the state of Kuwait reserves its full and inherent right to legitimate self-defense in accordance with Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, and to take whatever measures are considered appropriate to defend its sovereignty and protect its people and residents. Now, the reason I bring up this statement, although it may seem like an ordinary statement any country would make after being attacked, is because the United States had also made similar statements every time Iran attacked them with drones and missiles. And guess what? We had previously personally covered that the UAE was retaliating, and today we have official confirmation that this is happening. Take a look at this report. The UAE has been secretly carrying out attacks against Iran. One attack in April struck an oil refinery on an Iranian island. Now, the timing of this attack is definitely interesting because it probably occurred a few hours before or a few hours after the ceasefire was announced. We do not know the exact timing, but we know the attack happened that day. At that moment, when the ceasefire was announced in April, everyone was speculating about who could have carried out their attack. Was it Israel that attacked this refinery? Was it the United States? Well, both countries, the United States and Israel, publicly denied being involved in this attack, and Iran never blamed anyone directly, but there were rumors that it was the UAE. And now we have confirmation. Now, for those who are confused, I want to clarify something here. Initially, when this war began, all the Gulf countries basically said they would not allow the United States to use their airspace, and they would not allow the United States to use bases located on their territory. However, this situation changed when Iran began attacking these countries in retaliation for United States and Israeli attacks against Iran. This makes no sense to anyone. This topic is blocked in mainstream media and on some social media platforms. The YouTube algorithm also considers this topic risky, but it do not care. It will continue telling you the facts with the most accurate information possible. You can support me by liking the video to help me overcome the algorithm barrier without using any clickbait tricks. What Iran did was pure terrorism. They were attacking a country that did not want to get involved in this war. And that is exactly why we now have motive reports that other countries are either giving permission to the United States to use their airspace and carry out attacks against Iran, or countries like the UAE are getting directly involved in striking Iran and Iranian refineries. Now, the UAE may be a small country, but its military should not be underestimated. Their armed forces are well equipped with Western-made fighter jets and surveillance networks. The attack shows that the country is now more willing to use force against Iran in order to avoid being intimidated by a terrorist regime. And if the war starts again, it is definitely not good news for the Iranian regime. And guess what? It was not only Iran that attacked the UAE. There are also reports that Saudi Arabia is doing the same thing. A report was published saying that Saudi Arabia is also part of the retaliation against Iran. Here is the Reuters report. Saudi Arabia launched covert attacks against Iran as the regional war expanded. And again, the timing of this is important. Saudi Arabia was not part of this war when it began. Saudi Arabia only got involved in legitimate self-defense and retaliation, basically to create deterrence. It was Iran that first attacked Saudi infrastructure and Saudi citizens. No respectable country would simply allow that to happen without responding. Therefore, although we did not know whether Saudi Arabia was retaliating during the war, we now have confirmation that they did retaliate. They simply were not announcing all of this publicly. Now, this confirmation comes from two Western officials. We do not know exactly what that means. It could be someone from the United States government, someone from Europe, or somewhere else. And the other two officials who confirmed this news are Iranian officials. I am not sure how reliable that part is, but even so, believing that a country attacked without provocation by Iran would retaliate in some way is not a remote possibility. This is how deterrence is created. This is how you make sure people do not go around attacking you. Now, another point that must be clarified here is that these reports are coming out now. What they are talking about. The attacks being discussed happened before the ceasefire came into effect. In other words, before April, while Iran was attacking these countries and those countries were retaliating, these attacks took place during the war. If the war resumes, which seems increasingly likely because of the stalled negotiations, the United States is not willing to make concessions regarding nuclear conditions. In other words, the United States is willing to drop the missile condition that existed before the war. It is willing to abandon the condition related to the financing of proxy groups that it demanded before the war. However, no concessions have been offered regarding Iran's nuclear weapons and enrichment programs. And Iran is also unwilling to give them up. Therefore, it seems that the war will eventually have to restart if negotiations do not progress. And guess what? These Middle Eastern countries, these Gulf countries, were already part of this war before. They are preparing for a second round. I have more details before getting into that. A quick reminder for everyone to press the like and subscribe button below. This really helps us a lot. Now let's take a look at this clip. All the available options will surprise you. The threatening language comes after President Trump rejected Iran's response to the United States peace proposal, calling it a piece of garbage and stating that the ceasefire is on life support. He would say it is incredibly weak. He would say it is at its weakest point right now after reading that piece of garbage they sent us. He did not even finish reading it. He said he would be wasting my time reading it. He would say it is one of the weakest moments right now. It on life support? Do you believe a diplomatic solution with Iran is possible, or are the military options the only choice? I do not think it is very possible. Yesterday, President Trump met with military advisors and national security advisors basically to analyze the options the United States has available. This meeting took place after Iran sent a peace proposal that the United States basically cannot accept. Iran wants to pause the war. Iran wants the United States to lift the American blockade. Iran wants the United States to release all frozen funds. And in return, Iran only wants to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. They do not want to give up the nuclear enrichment program they possess. They do not want to give up nuclear weapons or the enriched uranium inside their nuclear facilities. All they want to do right now is reopen the Strait of Hormuz, and they want the United States to give up all the leverage it currently has. Of course, this is something the United States should not accept, and I do not believe the United States will accept it. That is why the meeting with military commanders took place yesterday. However, it is important to clarify something here. The simple fact that a meeting was held does not necessarily mean that military action is coming in the short term. Basically, these meetings have been taking place twice a week since the ceasefire began, and we really have not seen any military action outside of Operation Freedom. Therefore, this could mean that Operation Freedom may restart soon, but the fact that a meeting with military commanders took place does not necessarily mean that the war has started again. The important thing to watch now is that President Trump will travel to China tomorrow, and China's major influence over Iran, while Iran believes China's major influence over the United States. Let's see how the meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping unfolds and what comes out of that meeting. I highly doubt that a war will restart before that meeting. It is a very important meeting from the perspective of the United States. It is also a very important meeting from China's perspective. Both sides would really prefer not to talk about Iran, but considering the world we live in now, that is probably impossible. Almost every country in the world is suffering because of the Strait of Hormuz crisis created by Iran. That is why I am sure Iran will be the most important topic the leaders discuss. We will see what comes out of it. Another major piece of news that came out yesterday concerns Pakistan, the country mediating negotiations between the United States and Iran. And it is interesting because Pakistan may not be the neutral negotiator that the United States wants it to be. Take a look at this report. While Pakistan positioned itself as a diplomatic channel between Tehran and Washington, it quietly allowed Iranian military aircraft to be stationed in the country, potentially protecting them from United States attacks. Days after Trump declared the ceasefire at the beginning of April, Tehran sent multiple aircraft to Pakistan's Noor Khan Air Base. Among the military equipment was an Iranian Air Force R-630, a reconnaissance and intelligence gathering variant of the Lockheed 630 Hercules tactical transport aircraft. Pakistani officials confirmed, as reported by Sibis, that Iranian aircraft arrived in the country and are still there. Pakistan's foreign ministry says there is absolutely no link to any military contingency or preservation agreement, and that claims suggesting otherwise are speculative, misleading, and completely disconnected from the real context. Pakistan says the main purpose of having the aircraft in the country is to facilitate security in case peace talks are scheduled in the future. That is not such a far-fetched conclusion because the United States military itself sent a lot of equipment to Pakistan in case a second round of talks took place and in case President Trump visited the country. But the reason so many people are skeptical about Pakistan is because, as all of you already know, during the Afghanistan war, Pakistan was somehow playing both sides. Even though they were an ally of the United States during that war, they were helping Afghanistan and they were helping the Taliban. And that is why many people find it harder to fully trust Pakistan. One of those people is Senator Lindsey Graham, who said the following about Pakistan this morning. Listen, I have seen a report about that. Well, it is accurate, sir. I believe based on several classified matters. Let me ask you this. Do you agree that if it is accurate, it is somewhat inconsistent with being a peace mediator? Sir, he would rather not comment on that based on the ongoing negotiations and Pakistan's ruling. Secretary Hexner, if the mediator allows reconnaissance aircraft to operate and remain stationed at Pakistan's airbuses, do you believe that is consistent with being a fair mediator? Once again, he would rather not get in the middle of these negotiations. Well, he don't want to get in the middle of these negotiations. He do not trust Pakistan at all. If they truly have Iranian aircraft stationed at Pakistani bases to protect Iranian military assets, that tells me we should be looking for someone else to mediate. No wonder this whole thing is going nowhere. Let's see what comes out of this. Let's see whether those aircraft actually return to Iran or not if the peace talks collapse. Because then we would know exactly what those aircraft are doing in Pakistan. Now, here is one thing I want to point out. Just 2 or 3 weeks ago, Iranian officials were accusing Pakistan of being pro-United States in these negotiations. They wanted a neutral mediator, so in a way it is actually something positive if both sides accuse the mediator of favoring the other side, because at least the accusations are not coming from only one side. Both sides think Pakistan is not doing enough to help their side, or perhaps Pakistan is doing too much to help the other side. However, I believe we will know more as negotiations continue. Now, shifting our focus back toward Iran, the economic situation is getting very bad. Take a look at this report. One thing almost every person he spoke to in Iran told me, and something you would not notice through English language media coverage, is that the crushing inflation Iran is experiencing right now is especially affecting food prices. Prices have risen exponentially over the last month, and this is because supplies are simply not arriving anymore.